I think the Chancellor was in a really difficult place. We all know that there's not a lot of money kept behind. We're in a recession still. Things are not looking like they're going to improve very quickly. So he's in a really difficult place. What he's done is he's tried his hardest to make a difference with the bit of money he does have spare. So for example, the corporate tax rate coming down and simplifying that, that's good for business. That's what business have been asking for some time. He's made it clear that he wants to encourage innovation, which is great. The Northwest is a real hub and a powerhouse for innovation, with the R&D tax credit system above the line for larger companies or just cash back for smaller companies, and the patent box as well regime, which was already announced last year. But again, that's something which clearly encourages investment into the Northwest business, which is the Northwest economy, where we are all proud of those things. But let's not lose sight of the fact that we are in a very difficult economic climate. So I don't think anybody will be going around cheering about this, but he's tried to make the best out of it. There was talk about the SEIS, Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme. He's extending a capital gains holiday for that, which is certainly going to encourage small businesses to go out and raise money, which again will encourage a local enterprise to grow. There's talk about an employee share scheme, a new structure which has been announced already for a while, but again he's going to bring that in and he's going to encourage people to own shares in their companies. The NIC, £2,000 off there for all businesses that he announced. That's got to be good news for enterprise as well, especially if you're starting, which is where the Chancellor went on to say that for small businesses and those people who are starting off a new business, knowing that they have a £2,000 sort of allowance for NIC before they have to pay it, should mean that that will encourage them to create jobs, and it won't be a tax on jobs. The personal allowance is up to £10,000 tax-free, coming in earlier. Again, that's good for people wanting to get on with it. And finally, we've got lots of local businesses that are on the AIM, not on the full FTSE stock exchange, but on AIM market, and he's announced that he's going to abolish stamp duty in respect of transactions for those companies. Again, the opposite of Europe is what he made a big play of, where they're bringing in transaction taxes. The Chancellor announced that he's removing it in certain situations. So overall, there are some small measures, but there wasn't anything huge, big blockbuster items there. Yeah, well, there was an announcement that there'll be a new tax regime for shale gas. He recognises that that's part of the future for our energy as a country, and clearly shale gas is something which is close to home, and therefore a good competitive tax regime that encourages people to invest in this area will be good for local business. In terms of infrastructure and house buildings, there was a commitment to spend more money on railways and roads and modernise things, and that has what's called a multiplier effect, which means as the money is spent on the railway or the roads, that money goes to buy equipment, to give people jobs, puts money in other companies' businesses and in their pockets, which means they then go off and spend more money on other things. And therefore, for every pound you spend, you have a greater impact on the whole community, which again is great. Finally, local house builders will be pleased because there was a clear desire to get newly built houses up and running, and that will be now easier for whether it's a first-time buyer, whether it's not. There'll be, as long as you put 5% deposit down, the government will lend you interest-free for 5 years, 20%, providing the maximum house price is £600,000, which the Chancellor believes covers something like 90% of the country. That will then give people an ability to pay more towards a deposit and therefore to be able to buy newly built houses, which again has a positive impact for the construction sector and just helps everybody feel better. And as the Chancellor puts it, we're an aspiration nation. People, if we go back to the Thatcher years, it was a great desire for the Conservatives for everybody to own their own house. Hopefully this will also encourage people to buy their own houses, which has an impact on the local construction sector, house builders, and the multiplier effect means that we should all feel better about it. What he made was absolutely clear was that he expects everybody to pay tax, and he's not going to let people get out of paying tax. There's a huge debate about what is fair and moral when it comes to tax. That's creating uncertainty. And what one has to see is the detail of all the anti-avoidance measures and whether they actually do what they aimed at doing, or whether there's what would loosely be called collateral damage, and really it's just a tax through the back door. Clearly, if they just are stopping unacceptable avoidance techniques, which is what the Chancellor is saying he wants to do, then that will be a fairer system and people will be happy with that. If they are very broad and they do impact other businesses unintentionally, that uncertainty will be compounded in the current climate, which is not going to help people.